So, ladies and gentlemen, this is a response to the Brad Marchand Wham 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 podcast I did yesterday. I'm not going to apologize for one player in the NHL trying to take out another player for being a pest. We've had numerous instances like this before. Claude Lemieux back in the day with Chris Draper. Some of Draper's teammates took him out. Dale Hunter, different people. But one retaliation that never occurred was this guy, and I consider him the most dangerous of all time. You think Bennett, the hit against Marchand was rough. Twaddle. Today we're going to be talking about somebody maybe has been forgotten. I consider him probably one of the most dangerous players of the era, Dave Brown. Now, Dave Brown could best be described as a tall drink of water. 6'5", 205 on his light days. When he was in the NHL, especially when the Flyers, he almost brought back the Broad Street Bullies by himself. Now, David James Brown, again, a former right winger who played 14 seasons in the NHL, mostly for the Flyers, but did play with Edmonton in the messy years, winning a cup in 1990 and the San Jose Sharks. He was primarily known as an enforcer throughout his career, and he's currently the Flyers' head of pro scouting. Now, his most notable hit was this. He was suspended for 15 games for cross-checking New York Rangers forward Tomas Sandstrom, who was no favorite players himself, breaking his jaw and causing a concussion. At that time, it was among the stiffest penalties in NHL history. I think my good pal Gordie Dwyer got 23 games for a preseason attack of a linesman, but this is beyond the beyond. Now, born in Saskatoon, and I think he was more between 225 and 240, kind of like a combination of a linebacker like Jack Tatum and Eric Lindros. That's the best description I can give. Broke hand with the Spokane Flyers in 1981. Now, he played with Yorktown of SJHL in 81, but he was not selected in the 81 NHL draft when he was eligible. But his time in Saskatoon of WHL drew a lot of interest. Hockey News called him the modern enforcer. 11 goals, 33 assists for 44 points, 344 minutes in penalties. It was a steal by the Flyers, who took him in the 7th round, 140 overall. He eventually played 729 games in the NHL, 45 goals, 52 assists for 97 points, and the majority of those goals came in the middle of his career when he was considered a 10-15 goal player. Now, he debuted beautifully against Boston on March 12, 1993. I remember that contest because Boston didn't know what they were going to get into that night. Now, he wore mostly number 32 in the NHL for Philly and Edmonton, and number 21 for San Jose. Now, he retired in June of 96, leaving a trail of tears. He played in 80 postseason games with Philadelphia and Edmonton, scoring twice with 3 assists, 5 penalty minutes, and 209 minutes in penalties. Now, his career, he had 789 minutes in the sin bin, but a lot of injuries we're going to talk about this season. Now, he lost in the final for the Flyers in 85-87, of course, both against Edmonton, made it to finals in 97 as an AC. Now, ironically, he co-holds a record with Brian Popp for the fastest 2 goals by 2 players in one game. 7 seconds again on December 2nd, 86 for St. Louis. He was the Philadelphia penalty minutes leader in 94 or 137. Now, injured for most of the late 1990 season, he played on the Edmonton team that won the Stanley Cup in 1990, but did not play in the finals. Now, in his scouting career, he was named a New York Rangers Pro Scout prior to the 99 season, and remained that position throughout the 2003 campaign. Again, he was Rangers head pro scout for the 2004 season. Now, he was AC for Philadelphia for about 2 seasons. Now, ironically, his first fight in the NHL drew a lot of interest, and he took on Boston powerhouse Gord Kluzak in his first game. The fight took place at 15-19 in the first period, and Brown smashed Kluzak with multiple lefts to his eye before Kluzak was set to begin fighting. Kluzak was eventually taken to a local hospital where it was determined he wasn't going to go blind as he had no retinal damage. Now, he did play left wing for Philadelphia in 84. Now, here's where the injuries came in. He missed part of the 85 season with a bruised shoulder in March 85. He missed part of the 87 season with a cracked rib An injury suffered when he got caught in his own stick after scoring a goal and then tripped by Mark Johnson during a January 6th game versus New Jersey. He did not return for a month. Now, here's where the suspension came in. He was suspended by the NHL for one game for receiving a third game of misconduct of the season during Philadelphia's March 8, 87 game versus New Jersey. He was then suspended by the NHL for 5 games during the 87 season for a violent cross-check on Tomas Sandstrom late in the third period of the Flyers' March 17, 87 contest versus the Rangers. The suspension was announced after NHL reviewed a videotape provided by the Rangers. Now, he missed part of the 88 season with a bruised left hand and wrist, suffered in a fight with, get this as a blast from the past, Wayne Van Dorp during the third period of the Flyers' January 15th game at Pittsburgh. Now, a very, very strong skater and good with the stick in a good way. He led Philly with 29.3% shooting percentage in the 88 season. Now, another big injury was he was actually hit by Paul Fitton's stick during Edmonton's March 3rd, 89 game in Winnipeg, and he was out for a little while. Sprained hand in 89, bruised right shoulder again in 92, and he was eventually suspended again by the NHL for his third game misconduct of the season, of course, in a very important game versus Montreal. Now, 5 game misconducts in 94 got him another suspension, but this is the big one we're going to talk about. The NHL eventually suspended Brown for 15 games of that cross-check against Sandstrom, who was considered what they call a carver by his non-fans in the NHL. This happened when he was hit in the face after whistle during the Flyers' October 26, 87 game in New York. The NHL ruled that Brown had deliberately intended to injure Sandstrom, who was blindsided in no position to defend himself. The suspension, first for 13 consecutive games, took effect on November 2nd, 87, and did not return until December 3rd, 87 versus Hartford. In addition, Brown served a 14-15 games in suspension by sitting out the Phillies' December 10th and 22 games against the Rangers. Brown's 15-game suspension at the time was the league's longest for altercation between two players since Wilt Payman almost killed Dennis Polonich in an October 25th 70 game between Colorado and Detroit. It was also 5 games short of what at the time was the longest suspension in NHL history, the 20 games Tom Lysiak received for hitting linesman Ron Foyt on October 30, 83. Brown had claimed he did not hear referee Denny Morel's blow the whistle at 12:39 of the third period and did not know play had stopped before he hit Sandstrom. Nevertheless, he had received a 5-minute major in a match on the play, which was subject to automatic review by league officials. Videotape showed that all our players on the ice had heard the whistle, casting doubt on Brown's claim, and Sandstrom and Brown had history well before this. There was also no doubt that Brown hit Sandstrom from behind. Brown had a history again with altercations with Sandstrom, including one in March 87 that led to the suspension. The Flyers made no attempt to appeal the ban, although Philadelphia coach Mike Keenan, in one of the most stupid things he ever said, noted Brown had likely been provoked because he was not known for using a stick. Keenan even accused Sandstrom of being the most vicious player in the game because he used his stick when other players would have used their fists. He was a carver, yes, but he wasn't the most vicious player in the game. The guy who hit him was at the time. The Rangers, however, were outraged that Brown did not get a longer suspension for a deliberate and unprovoked attempt to injure. Now, he eventually found time in Maine and Springfield of the AHL. Now, he hit a unique record in Maine in 1983 with 418 minutes in penalties, which led the AHL. He also had 107 minutes in the postseason. So this is AHL 525 minutes in penalties. He also, again, that was a AHL single season record, but was later broken. Now, the weird trade here, now, obviously it had to do with Montreal because they got rid of this player that was in a deal. Philadelphia had traded Brown to Edmonton in exchange for Keith Acton and a future draft pick, which ended up being Dmitry Yushkevich on February 7, 89. 2 years later, Philadelphia got him back when they traded Craig Fisher, Scott Mellanby, and Craig Berube to the Oilers for Brown, Yari Corey, and Corey Foster on May 30th, 91. Philadelphia lost Brown a second time when he signed but with San Jose as a Group 3 unrestricted free agent on August 10th, 95. So the key point is this, ladies and gentlemen. Last year's of Bobby Clark, he was with the Flyers, 83, 84, 85, 86, 87, 88, part of 89, back there 92, 93, 94, 95. So, I mean, he was, and he never had a full season either because of suspension or otherwise. But let's look at the rough numbers here, ladies and gentlemen. And he did play 2 games for the Flyers in 83. I don't know when he found time. Springfield Indians in 84, where he played most of the campaign. 31 points in 59 games, 150 minutes and penalties. Moving up to the Flyers. 19 games, a goal and 5 assists, 6 points, 98 minutes and penalties in 19 games, ladies and gentlemen. Five penalty minute a game pace. Now, 85, 57 games, 369, 165, 59 minutes and penalties in 11 postseason contests. 86, he broke the 10-goal mark, first time in NHL, 277 minutes and penalties. And this was the key, ladies and gentlemen. The Flyers against Montreal, that big semifinal series, 59 minutes and penalties in 26 games, a goal, 2 assists, and 3 points, with 7 goals in the year. 88, 114 minutes and penalties in 47 games. 89, and a split between Oilers and the Flyers, 72 games, 5 assists, 156 minutes and penalties. Less of that role in Edmonton, of course. Back with the Flyers, he never broke 140 minutes and penalties in the season, and again, it wrapped up in San Jose. 1,789 minutes and penalties in a career. That's pretty amazing. And 209 minutes and penalties in a postseason. So look at this, ladies and gentlemen, almost 2,000 minutes in a sin bin. But Dave Brown, to me, there was talent there. But my God, ladies and gentlemen, you're never going to see Remke with the Rangers, but Dave Brown on skates, you're looking at, you see the end of the cherry, and he was an upright player. But Dave Brown, like I said, he was a fighter, but I don't know exactly why people don't talk about him anymore. If I had a team, okay, that had somebody like Dave Brown, you can't teach size. They say 6'5". I'm sure he was 6'6". And on the good days, when he had a couple of steaks, 240 minutes and penalties. But ironically, ladies and gentlemen, and this is kind of freaky, because the Flyers are making the playoffs every season pretty much, he never played for Team Canada. You would think that, a certain year, like what 92, 93, 94, when he didn't make the postseason, he never played at the Worlds. I would love to have him at the Worlds to see what he could do on the bigger ice surface. Anyway, so ladies and gentlemen, that's one of my favorite stories of back in the day when I used to see the Nordiques in Montreal play. And Montreal only played the Flyers, I think, 5-6 times a season. But Brown and Nordiques had a feud going on for quite some time because Nordiques had some really tough nuts. But this is what he called the second goon era, I call it. Because we had the goon era of the late 60s, mid-70s, the slapshot era. But he was part of the second goon era. But if you want to call him a goon, you better say it to his face, because you only can say it once. I'm not going to say Brown was a goon, but I feel bad that no Canadian teams had him on their roster. He would have been a superstar. Edmonton, yes, he was only there for 100 and some games, but I think it's 140 games or whatever. Imagine playing in Toronto. Imagine playing in Montreal. You know how much Brashear is honored, and Gino Wojcik and all that. I think he left money on the table, not being asked to be sent to Vancouver or Toronto or Montreal. He would have really fit in with the fans. Anyway, and from what I heard, he's a good guy in his regular life, and he's a great scout for the Flyers and all the great players they've got in recent years. He's played a big part of that. But someone who was a Boston fan years ago told my cousin, who was a Flyers fan, he called Dave Brown Mongo, and the conversation didn't end well. I've never seen so many people think someone's going to kill another person. This was at a bar when it happened. The Flyers were on. He said, "Is Mongo playing?" And unfortunately, it didn't end well. That's so. Don't call him Mongo either, because Dave Brown, like I said, you can't teach size. So I mean, you have your Florida and Boston feud. That's fuck all. I mean, Dennis Polonich and Mackey and all these the Boucher incident. That's just pitter pat. That's just like a short right hand. It's almost like the alley punch against List in the second fight. I don't know, but Marchand might have had recurrent concussion syndrome too. That's been talked about a little bit. So anyway, listen to the previous Why podcast. If you don't like it, call me retarded, like someone did before. Of course, you'll be reported and banned. So It's your choice. You can call me that. It's going to last 5 seconds because I check my comments like 20 times a day because I don't want any CBC message boards bullshitters on there. If you got something good to say, but if you're going to use profanity against me because I have a different opinion than you, homie, don't play that. Wah, wah, wah. Wah, 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 wah. Anyway, have a good one, and don't forget, keep your stick in the ice. Bye.